Hi, Year 7. I hope you're really well. All right, I've done this feedback video again for this week because I know that a few of you were having some issues accessing the Teams meeting yesterday. Thank you to those of you who did come. You don't need to watch this video if you did come to the Teams meeting yesterday, but if you didn't, I still wanted to give you that feedback that you would have had you attended the meeting again, because I know that there were some technical issues. So as ever, this feedback focuses on the knowledge that you covered last week, mainly focusing on that quiz that you completed last Thursday. All right, I like to use the quizzes because you doing those each week really tells me what knowledge you've been able to pick up on and what things you might need to revisit, all right, as we move into today. So we're looking at the work you completed between the 1st and the 5th of February. First things first, just wanted to celebrate a few things. On the class average this week in the quiz was 34%. Not our best score, right? I know I spoke last week about how the average we like to aim for is around 80%, because that shows that we really have mastery in a topic, all right? However, it's all right because a score like that, what that tells me is there are a few things that we need to look back at and revisit, okay, and that's what we're going to focus on in this session. If we're in the meeting, I would name our top scorers, all right, but I won't because obviously this video is on YouTube, all right. However, if your name happens to begin with any of these letters on here, it means you're either a top scorer or not far off the top scorers, all right. So have a look. I think there's only a couple of people whose names start with those letters in the class, okay. So I thought I'd leave them there because I really wanted to give you the acknowledgement, but at the same time, I don't want to display them on here. Okay, moving on to one of the first things I want us to look at then is to consider what is a connotation. Okay, so a connotation is an idea or feeling a particular word invokes in addition to its literal or primary meaning. Connotations are the thoughts and ideas that we can associate with words, okay? And we're going to link this into us looking at tenors, vehicles and grounds in metaphors, okay? But I say generally a connotation is the things we think of when we see something described in a particular way or with particular words or the weather or things like that. So first of all, let's have a look again at what a tenor, a vehicle and a ground is, okay? So we know that the tenor is the thing being described in a metaphor, the vehicle is the thing the tenor is being described to, and the ground is the link between the two. So let's look at some of these examples that we also looked at last week. So the first example here, the man is a lion, okay? What's the tenor in that? The tenor is the man. The man is the thing that is being described. And the vehicle is the thing the tenor is being described to. So the man is being described as a lion. So lion is the tenor, the vehicle here. And the ground between the two, I know we talked about this last week. If you're describing the man as being like a lion or saying the man is a lion, that might suggest that he is perhaps fierce or powerful or loud or strong or various different things like that. And the reason that we can tell that is because lion has connotations of all those different things, okay, where connotations are the thoughts and ideas we can associate with words. When it comes to lion, we can assume, we can connote that they're going to be loud, powerful, fast, strong, a leader, things like that. So by figuring out those connotations, we can then link that back to the man and figure out the ground. All right, we can work out that by describing the man as a lion, we could probably say that he is proud or fast or strong or brave or something of the like, okay? So connotations and the ground really do come into play with each other. Let's look at the second example. My cat is a monster. So the tenor here, the thing being described is the cat, and monster is the vehicle, because that's the thing the cat is being described as. So let's consider the connotations of monster. If you think of monster, you might think of something that is, you know, really large or really angry or really fierce or, you know, claws a lot of things, or something scary. And it's because we can figure that out about monster that we can then link the ground between the two. By describing the cat as being a monster, you can therefore assume that the ground means that the cat is acting like a monster, okay? So the cat is perhaps being angry or fierce or scary or something like that, okay? So by figuring out the connotations of monster, we're then able to figure out what they mean to say about the cat. And let's have a look at the third example here. Now, this example is taken from one of the poems that you looked at last week by The Tiger by William Blake. Okay, and we're just going to have a look at what the tenor, vehicle and ground is in this example. So tiger, tiger, burning bright. So the tenor is the tiger, the thing being described. And then the vehicle, the thing the tenor is being described against, it's being described as burning in this example. Tiger, tiger, burning bright. And that's our vehicle there, okay? The tiger, it's saying that the tiger is burning. Obviously, the tiger's not actually burning. It's not on fire in that sense. But what we can figure out is that if something is burning, if we think about the connotations, it's likely to be bright, it's likely to be noticeable, and things like that. And this is how we can notice the ground or the link between the two. Okay, because if the tiger is burning, all right, again, it's not literally on fire, it's not literally burning. We could say that means where tigers have orange skin, that could mean they are really bright and obvious, you know, amongst their habitat. and things like that. Okay, so by describing the tiger as burning bright, it means it's really noticeable, it's really clear to see, you know, its colours are really vibrant and things like that. So again, by working out the connotations of burning, we're then able to make a link back to the ground and figure out what the link is between the fact that the tiger burning bright and the tiger. Okay, so again, connotations and the ground kind of come hand in hand, but it's really important that we are aware of what connotations are, being the thoughts and ideas we can associate with words, because often when we look at texts in literature, we tend to say, you know, oh, this connotes this, or this has connotations of this. All right, and it's thinking a little bit outside the box, thinking what does this particular word or phrase make you think of? Okay, excellent. Moving on to the next part then, what is an extended metaphor? This was another area that was flagged up that we needed to look at, okay? So an extended metaphor occurs when the tenor remains the same. So in an extended metaphor, the thing being described always remains the same, but the vehicle, the thing it's being described to, can change. Okay, so you've always got, you know, several metaphors in one, but because it's all linking back to the same thing, it's just an extended metaphor, but you're obviously building up more and more detail about your tenor, about your thing being described. So an extended metaphor is when a metaphor continues on for more than one line usually, and the tenor is compared to more than one thing. And let's have a look at an example of this in one of the poems that you looked at last week. So the poem here was Hope is the Thing with Feathers by Emily Dickinson. Okay, I'll quickly read through it and then we'll have a look at it in a bit more detail. So hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without words and never stops at all. And the sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chilliest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. Okay, so if we were in the live meeting, we were going through these questions, but I shall use them now just to help us work out why this is an extended metaphor. So first things first, we need to identify the tenor. Now, it's important to remember that a tenor, or the thing being described, doesn't always necessarily need to be concrete. It doesn't need to be a physical thing. Sometimes it might be more abstract, like an abstract noun. Like in this example here, our tenor is hope. And obviously hope is an emotion. So that's not something... It's not something physical, it's not something you can touch, all right? It is an emotion, it is something that people feel, all right? But it is still the tenor, it is still the noun in this example. But what we need to consider next is, what is hope being described as? What is the vehicle in this example? And that carries on straight away in this line. So hope is the thing with feathers. Yep, absolutely. That is what it's being described as. And we can infer from that it's kind of being described as being like a bird. Is hope actually a bird? No, and this is even more prevalent in this situation, because with hope being something immaterial and something non-physical and something that you simply feel, or it's being given physical form, all right, metaphorical physical form. Let's keep going. So hope is the thing with feathers, and then it says that perches in the soul. Yep, okay, so it's saying that hope perches in the soul. It doesn't physically perch there because it's not a bird, but it's being described as being like a bird. It then says that hope sings the tune. It doesn't actually sing the tune because it can't sing, but it's being described as singing the tune and never stops at all. All right, and the sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be a storm that could abash the little bird. Here, hope is actively being described as a little bird that kept so many warm. And again, we're still metaphorical. It's this idea that hope is one of those emotions that people need to stay strong, right, to feel warm and feel hope in the darkest of times. So this is what it's saying, is that hope is what is keeping people warm even when they're suffering. I've heard it in the chilliest land and on the strangest sea. Okay. What this is saying here is that the speaker has heard the song of hope, all right, this tune that this bird form of hope is playing, and they've heard it in the chilliest land and on the strangest sea. And what that's saying is that they're hearing this song, but we know that the song is by this metaphorical bird that is hope. So what that's saying is that they felt hope in the chilliest land and on the strangest sea. Okay, so with every single stanza here, you've got continual descriptions, you've got continual vehicles. Okay, all of these things are describing hope. Okay, so we have our example of our one tenor and our many vehicles all the way through. All of these vehicles, they all link back to the same sort of metaphorical image, that hope is a bird. But again, hope is something immaterial, it's something you can't touch, it's an abstract noun. All right, so by giving it physical form, it is automatically metaphorical. And it's saying that, you know, could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chilliest land and on the strangest sea. So again, this is a perfect example of an extended metaphor. All right, because again, that metaphor carries on all the way through the poem. All right, because as we know here, an extended metaphor is when a metaphor continues on for more than one line and the tenor is compared to more than one thing. So again, the whole idea is still around it being a bird, okay, but you've got several things that they're saying hope is. which is fantastic. So if we were in the live feedback session now, we would be looking at just finishing off this sentence together. All right, you might choose to write this down, or if not, we can just talk through it. But what I wanted us to do was to almost sort of fill in the blanks in this paragraph in bold here, just to summarise what we now understand about it being an extended metaphor in this poem. So this poem is an example of an extended metaphor because the tenor, all right, and the tenor here would be hope, is compared to, and I'm going to summarise it a bit more generally, but I'm going to say it's compared to a bird many times. This reinforces how, and this is where it's going to get interesting. We're going to have a look, okay? So this is as far as we've got. This poem is an example of an extended metaphor because the tenor hope is compared to a bird many times. This reinforces how, and what I've put here are 3 different options that you could use to finish off this sentence, and I want you to decide which one, because by doing so it will help you to understand whether or not you understood the message of the poem correctly. So does this reinforce how hope is weak and fragile and easily broken? The first one there. Does this reinforce how hope is something beautiful that never leaves us? Or the third one there, does this reinforce that hope can fly away and leave people feeling sad? I want you to pause the video. I want you to decide which one of those 3 you're going to use, all right, to finish off this paragraph that we've got up here. Read it through again if you need to, and then decide which one to add on. Pause me now, make a decision, play again when you're ready to talk through the answers. Okay, so hopefully by now you've made a decision on which one that you would use to finish off this analytical paragraph that we've written here. Okay, then let's go through each of the options here. So number 1, hope. This reinforces how hope is weak and fragile and easily broken. I would disagree with that strongly, okay, because the poem is trying to show us how hope is something that's been heard even in the darkest of times. It's something that perches in the soul, and it's something that is kept hold of. Similarly with number 3, this reinforces how hope can fly away and leave people feeling sad. I would disagree because, again, the poem talks about hope always being there, which means that I would go with this one here. Okay, hope is something beautiful that never leaves us. And that would summarise our analytical paragraph quite nicely. To say this poem is an example of an extended metaphor because the tenor, hope, is compared to a bird many times. This reinforces how hope is something beautiful that never leaves us. Absolutely, okay. And what we've done there is we've just summarised the message of the poem really, really strongly. All right. So that is all for today's feedback session. Well done for all of your hard work this half term. You should be really, really proud of yourselves. Next week is half term, so you won't have any lessons set, and we will not have a meeting next week. All right, but after half term, our meetings will take place every Wednesday at the time you would normally have English. So that means in week 1, we'll have our meeting at around 1:15. On week 2, we'll have our meeting at 9:15 in the morning. So at the time that you would normally have English in a school day, but I will always give you some notice prior to the meeting that we will be having a meeting, okay? Take care, stay safe, and I will see you in a couple of weeks. Enjoy your half terms, all right, and well done for everything you've done. I'll see you then. Goodbye.